Hello. Okay, in this video we're going to be assembling the Freehand Guard from Woodpeckers. I just received this a few days ago. I ordered it back in February. Took a while to get it because I ordered it along with another item from Woodpeckers that was a new item that they had a pre-release sale on, and since this was part of that same order, I didn't get the Freehand Guard until the other item was manufactured and shipped. So this is an item that you can normally get, I believe, at any time from Woodpeckers, as long as they have it in stock, so I usually keep them in stock. So today we'll assemble it, and then install it on my router table, and make a couple of test cuts and see how it goes. Alright, so get everything out first. First step, place the top plate over the wooden base. And position the dust port on the top plate and attach it with 3 1-inch coarse thread screws on the 2 sides and back of the base. So we'll line up all of our holes. Alright, so in one hardware package, you have 3 coarse thread 1-inch screws and a small machine screw. Machine screw is a 1/2 inch. And then you have another hardware pack that also has 3 coarse thread screws. They're a little longer, 1 1/4, 1 1/2, and they're used later. And they have the plastic bushings, so that's used for a later step. So we'll take our 3 coarse thread 1-inch screws, and per the instructions, we're placing these in the 2 side positions on the dust port and in the back. The front being the area that'll be open where you're going to be working once the Freehand Guard is assembled. These all snug. Okay. Use the 1/2 inch machine thread screw for the front hole base assembly. So, as I said, the hardware pack that I opened had the 3 1-inch screws and the machine screw. This is a flathead screw. And you see immediately why the smaller screw has to go on the front. The larger screws go through and into the wooden base of the Freehand Guard. The smaller screw is only threading into the plastic, melamine probably, top plate, and it's creating its own threads as you screw it in. Okay. Set each of the 5 black spacers over the remaining holes in the base assembly. So the hardware does not come with black spacers, they're actually white. But there are 5 of them. Okay. And then carefully lay the clear shield over the black spacers, or white spacers as the case may be. Make sure all 5 holes in the clear shield are aligned with the black spacers on the base. And then we will use the longer 1 1/4 inch coarse thread screws to attach the clear shield through the spacers and into 3 of the holes. Now, here, I'll show or continue. You'll notice with the remaining 5 holes, these 2 holes are significantly larger than the other 3. The coarse thread screws will go into the smaller holes, and will go all the way, just like the first coarse thread screws we put in, will go all the way through and screw into the wooden base. The last 2, the larger holes, are the holes that are used through which the knobs or these bolts, screws, which we'll talk about in a minute, will attach to the router plate once it's assembled. So we'll make sure that the spacers are lined up with the holes. Put our clear plastic plate in place. We'll insert the 3 screws into the 3 smaller holes. And tighten. And before I completely tighten all 3 down, I'm going to make sure that my last 2 spacers by inserting knobs through the holes. Okay. This will become important. These are how we attach this to the router plate. I'll go ahead and make sure these are all nice and snug. Should hold the other 2 spacers in place. Okay, and now the freehand guard is assembled. So now we'll shift over to the router table and attach it and give it a whirl. Okay, so here we are at the router table. We have our freehand guard assembled. We just did at the workbench, and we have the remaining parts of our hardware that came with it, our instructions, and we're going to look at installing this. Now, the instructions, or the freehand guard, the 2 mounting holes are designed to line up with holes on the Woodpeckers router lift plate. I do not have a Woodpecker router lift plate. I have an Incra router lift plate. However, these mounting knobs do thread. They're the same threads as the holes on my lift plate where the starting pin can be attached. Now, so that means that I don't have to do any modifications to my router plate in order to install this. However, I will not be able to, because of the spacing of the 2 locations for my starting pin, I will not be able to attach at both locations. So I don't think that that's going to be a problem. I'm going to find this location here, and we'll tighten it up. And it's very secure. Now, I think the decision, so I can choose, I could mount it there, or I can mount it on this side. Depending on which side of the table I'm working from and how best I feel like this is going to work for me. I feel like, at least to start out here, the best option for me is going to be to use this mounting location and use this hole. So, there we go. Now, the hardware, it also comes with this additional pack of hardware, and what this is for is mounting this to any plate, right, one you've made yourself, one you purchased. But what it requires is drilling holes into your plate in the orientation how you want your freehand guard to mount to your plate, and you run these longer bolts through from the top, and then you have to place a washer and a nut onto the bolt from below to secure it that way. I have no intention of, at this point, of putting holes in my router plate, and I'm just going to use it with one knob attached like this. All right, so there's the dust port. Accepts a standard 2 1/4 inch shop vac hose. This is just a standard hose. I think I got it Home Depot. It's nothing special. I know that can be, I've run into issues before with these ports not necessarily matching up very well between things and having to get adapters. This one seems to work just great with just your standard off-the-shelf 2 1/4 inch shop vac hose. And so the way that this is designed to work is it replaces, or it provides the same capabilities as a starting pin, which you can use either side for that function. You can put your piece against either side, piece that you're freehand routing against either side as a starting location. And then you have a guard to help keep your hands away from the spinning blade, and you have some dust collection from the top. If you have, like me, I have dust collection from below as well, so this would provide dust collection from above and below. And it looks like it'll work pretty well. So I'm going to disconnect this real quick because I don't have a bit in my router currently. And off camera, I will install a bit and set it up, and then we will turn it on and use it. Okay, we're back. I now have my router bit installed. Just put in a little 1/4 inch cove bit, and have my freehand guard back installed. Hook up my shop vac hose. I've adjusted my blast gates on my dust collection system, so I'm now going to be applying the dust collection to below the router table, and we'll start everything up and see how it goes. Okay, well, I have to say that that worked really well. So this is actually a very cheap little cove bit, so the cut quality is not that great. You probably noticed I had a little bit of issues with adjusting the exact position of the freehand guard relative to my fence, and just the nature of my setup here, and with this Incra fence system, this is generally where I stand to use the router table. And so what's actually nice about only connecting in one spot is I can adjust this freehand guard. I can rotate it as I'm using it, which actually I think in the end will work out nice depending on the piece, the size of the piece, and how I'm routing, and which side of the freehand guard I want to use as a guide to help me get the piece started. So I think it's going to work out great. In comparison to freehand routing I've done before without the guard, the dust collection is way better. There's a few little bits, but generally in the past when I've done freehand routing, the downdraft dust collection does a good job of getting the vast majority of the stuff, but you do tend to get a lot of stuff scattered around on top. It depends on the bit and exactly what I'm doing, but this was basically non-existent, the amount that's left over. So this did a really good job of collecting the dust that would have been left on top of the table, that would not have been collected by the downdraft. So overall I'm pleased. I like the fact that I got another little piece of safety, helped me keep my hands away from the router bit more, make me more conscious of that. I can see right through it just fine. I had no problems with visibility. And again, I think that rather than it being a negative that I can't use both mounting holes, I think in my situation it's actually going to be a positive, because the ability to easily reposition this even as I'm working is going to be really useful, depending on exactly how I'm working, since I don't really have the ability to reposition around the table, depending on exactly how I need to position the piece. So all in all, happy with it. Not an expensive item, very easy to assemble, works well, does what it's supposed to, and when you're done, very easy to. All right, well, hope you enjoyed that video. Hope you found that useful, and I'll see you next time.